Okay, so if you look at your supplemental material, that it kind of mixed up with week number 13 topics. So I want you to clarify, we are going to cover only hiring, promotion, and firing issues in sports management. So if you can find some of the unrelated topics or content such as drug testing issue, then we are not going to cover it today. So that's the accident. So if you see those issues, then I just want you to postpone, put it back to week number 13. So we're going to cover religious issues and drug testing issues later, next week. Okay, so these are some numbers I want you to think about. Racial issue and gender issue is one of the significant problem in terms of employment opportunity, fairness issues. Some people believe that there is still discrimination when they hire, when they promote, and when they fire future and current employees within sports organization. And this is one of the example. Dr. Rapchick is the director of Sports Ethics Center at Central Florida University, University of Central Florida. So he actually sent out the kind of a very simple survey to major sports organizations, including NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, and NCAA. So ask, how many white coaches, very specific, how many assistant coaches, how many fitness and conditioning coaches, white, African American, black, Hispanics, Asian, and others, etc. How many female physicians in your team? How many male physicians? So you have to answer so many complicated questions, but in a simple way. Check. So it will be collected by online survey. So it will be available every year for free. So if you have a chance, go to google.com and type racial and gender report card. Then you will see maybe 100-page long document. So you will see how many female coaches in NBA, how many female medical doctors in certain sport industry. So this is one of the small examples. Over 77% of head athletic trainers in pro leagues worldwide. Is that a problem? Oh, this is about the United States. Yeah. So that's the topic we're going to cover. I mean, I think we have a very similar law. So I want you to make this class as a comparative law between American law and Korean law within the sport industry. But this actually only belongs to the U.S. Boundaries. So 77% of head athletic trainer. What about the over 94% of team physicians worldwide? So none were women except for 2% in the NBA and 1% in NHL. So there's no female team physicians in other sports league. Okay, so I mean that's right, because we have to look at the applicant pool. How many applications were white? How many applications were colors? Or how many applications were how many applicants were male or female? So if let's say extreme case 90% of applicant were female, but 90% of current employees are man or male, so that may be problematic. However, just simple number doesn't necessarily mean there's some discrimination. So we have to look at the behind situations. What about in Korea? So do you know any female head coaches in WNBA? or WKBL, I'm sorry, head coach. And do you know any female head coach in women's volleyball, professional volleyball? Yeah, yeah, manager, but shouldn't be head coach. So usually you can see one or two female coaches, assistant coaches, but not head coach positions. So more male coaches, especially in basketball, even WKBL, male dominant industry. So if you can see that numbers, then probably you can say, oh, might be something. We don't know for sure, but we have to take a look at more in depth what's happening. What are their hiring process? Do they look at some potential female candidate? Okay. Or the hiring process was clear and transparent, or kind of closed, and then it has been done within a kind of dark room. So that's the problem. So, but in the United States, I can tell more and more female sports management major student in the classroom, undergraduate program and graduate program. So what does that mean? I'm kind of optimistic because more number of female applicants will be coming in the next couple of years. So more females, and then I can say, as long as everything being assumed being equal, then probably more female employees can be found in sport industry in the United States. Same thing, we have only one female student here, but if we see more number of female students in sport industry and management majors, then I can see, oh, that's what's happening. We can see right now, but in the near future, what's going to happen? That might be one of the strong indicator that how the employment process will be affected. Okay, so your point of view, continuing this parity in employment patterns and competition raise questions about the causes of these differences. So this is what I explained. Number one, is that result of lifestyle choices? Because we believe that sports is a man's thing. But obviously that's not true anymore. But what about educational background? If you have numbers, how many male majored in sport and recreation or leisure industries, and how many female? Or we don't have as many racial issues in Korea, but racial is one of the strongest issue within their employment process. So I just happened to study with two professors at the University of North Carolina a couple of years ago, and we looked at all the ACC football players. About 90% of players are black, African Americans. And why only small number of African American players willing to be the coach in high school and college A teams? Doesn't make sense. Who get the scholarships? Who's better in football program? Mostly African American. Significantly more African American receive scholarship from playing football. But if you look at what they're going to be ended up in terms of their job or profession, then only small number of African American become the coaches, and probably I can say dominant white players become the coaches. So we actually surveyed about more than 100 African American and white players, and we found that their final goal is totally different. Major portion of African American football players not interested being a coach. They want to be playing football, and they want to be playing professional at the professional level, make a fortune, make a lot of money. And what about white? They know they are kind of inferior to their African American counterpart. They know African American players better in terms of their performance. So their goal is totally different from the starting point. They want to be a coach. I'm on this team. Doesn't matter whether I receive the scholarship or not, but I want my experience as a player, because this is one of the requirements to become a good coach at the high school and collegiate level. So what about this one? Due to prejudicial stereotypes and attitude manifesting themselves in discriminatory employment practices. So if you see, oh, we don't hire female coaches, or we prefer to hire male coaches, then that's totally violating the Title VII. That's what we're going to cover. And from the TV news, and then I heard that some organization had their job description and job posting. We prefer the female, and who should be taller 160 centimeters. Or some organization post their job openings saying, we prefer to hire some female who's at 20s, early 20s. Do you think that's a problem? Yeah. Or maybe I can say 용모 단정 단정한 female, right? So should have good appearances. So that's the direct violation. How can you say that? Okay. So if it's the case, then probably it should be treated by law. And one of the issue, we have to pass these cases over and again and again, because we know there is something going on within this organization. Obviously, we see only less female employees will be given the opportunity to be promoted to the upper level position, right? So at the entry level position, we can see very similar, quite fair compared to upper position. But if you look at the intermediate level of positions, or 과장 or higher, managing position or director position or executive position, then why more and more male dominant than their female counterpart? It should be a problem. Okay. But they were okay. They're doing the same thing continuously, because this is a hiring a person or employee should be quite subjective, right? Subjective. If somebody call you, I'm qualified, I'm a female, I've been working for this organization for last 20 years. I believe I did better than other competitors, and then I lost my opportunity to be promoted. And then I want you to explain why I was not selected to be a certain position. Then what the human resource department would say. There's just certain way to say, and because that certain way to say, to explain, the organization can escape from any potential lawsuit. So this is the answer: organizational fit. Obviously, we don't have to explain, especially when you hire someone and some of the female who didn't get the position. Probably call your office and ask, why? Can you explain why I'm not selected? Then you can say, oh, this is a confidential information. We don't want to share any information with the candidate. Also, you can say, this is an organizational fit. He or she is better fit with the organization. If you say that much, then you should be fine. But you say more than that, probably it may bring the potential lawsuit. So discrimination is quite impossible to prove. The long process, quite complicated. So can you think about some other examples, kind of similar examples that reflect this potential discrimination. Okay, I mean that's a very sensitive issue. I mean, there's kind of gray area, borderline. So once you say about your appearances or good looking as one of the reason you were hired or you're dropped out of the job, then that might be very critical. So this is my personal experience. When I submitted my application when I was in the United States about 10 years ago, I happened to post my photo on my resume. We call it like a vita, curriculum vita. And I got an email from, actually official letter from that university saying I need to resubmit my application without my profile photo. Think about why the university sent that letter to me. Because they need to document, they need to compile on the documentation just in case. So this is indication we send out, we didn't ask the person to submit his application with his profile photo on. So they actually send the letter to me to protect themselves just in case. When I file a claim or somebody files a claim, then they say, oh, we didn't ask him to post his profile photo on his resume. So we asked him again to resubmit the application. Okay. And then also several years ago, one African American professors did a huge study, and he made up the good resume. So he sent out more than 100 companies. Half of them uses traditional African American name, same resume, and the half of the resume was made by in using a traditional white Caucasian name. So he looked at same qualification, same resume, and how can you say more white person, Caucasian named resume receive more interview opportunities? Statistically significant difference between the same resume but different name, different first and last name. Because interviewers, they understand, they recognize the person's race based on their name. Especially when you use traditional black name or traditional white name, they can tell. So even though they officially or publicly announced that they recognize the name, the race in terms of their name, but we don't know how they screen their applications. So there is no legal room for that process. Yeah, probably there's some companies doing criminal background check on behalf of the employers. Doesn't matter it's a small business, big business. They have to contact some company to check their criminal background on behalf. So if it's your decision as an employer, so you want to hire or not. Actually, it happened when I was a graduate director of a graduate program. One of the required section was, have you ever served in prison? And then one candidate actually checked. So we had a meeting. So this is the educational system. We are a graduate program, and do we have to accept him or do we have to deny? So we had a kind of a quiet discussion about the issue. He actually stored when I worked at one of the electric store, and he stored some product. So he served 6 months in prison. So I mean, we don't know for sure what kind of background he or she had, but depending on your nature of the job. So my program was in the School of Education. So we actually producing the teachers and educators. So if we deny him to be accepted the program, then we have a great reason, great excuse. We are education program, then we don't believe he had a great fit with our program. But what about some other kind of marketing, other businesses? Criminal background cannot be treated as one of the big barrier. That I mean, if you do on purpose, then probably that's the violation of fairness issues. Okay. So this is Title 7, but you don't have to memorize. But this is only covers within the United States. So Title 7, there's no discrimination can be proved to the employee, to the citizens. In terms of 7, I mean actually this is 5 categories, and then there is one more in the next slide. Race. I want you to clarify race and color is different from legal standpoint. We believe that what's races? You can say you're Asian. Races and colors different because there is an interesting story came out in the United States a couple years ago. One 50-some years old male with a dark skin, and he believed he was African American. He was black. He was treated in that way for a long time, entire his life. And then his gene said he never had African American black gene in his body. So he looked African American. He looked black, but he wasn't. So he was 100% white, Caucasian. So race and color is different. Interestingly, my son believed my wife's Korean. My wife was white because her skin, the color of skin was kind of similar to white, even though she's Korean Asian. So from others' perspective, they kind of confused with race and color. So race, when I ask you race, then probably you have to explain your biological and then geographical family history. Probably Korean American or Asian, typical Asian, and color probably you can describe as kind of yellow, right? So most of people in the United States say probably they are mixed. When I ask what's your race, and probably they say I'm mixed. Yeah. But color is very straightforward, and sex, we don't say gender in this case. Sex is a legal term. Okay, so you cannot be discriminated based on your sex. Okay, and then national origin. National origin is different from nationality. One of the interesting story about this issue, the former NHL, North American Ice Hockey referee, whose nationality was Canadian. He's from Canada, and he volunteered. He applied for NHL All-Star games. He wants to be a referee for All-Star game, and he was denied. He was rejected. So he filed a claim against NHL. He was discriminated based on his nationality, but his attorney was wrongly applied Title 7 to his case. So the case has been dismissed because the attorney misunderstood. Yeah. So I'm talking about national origin. This is about where your parents came from. Okay, your ancestors, your Italian family history, or England. So you're kind of similar, yeah. So like my boy is American citizen, so I'm Korean citizen. So if they are treated unequally because they are, my boy's parents from Korea. So, national origin of, yeah. National is American, yeah. So, yeah, kind of family, where the family from. Culture, yeah, and sister, and religion. So So it will be applied to 15 or more employees who work at least more than 20 calendar weeks per year. So if you believe kind of a full-time employee, then you can get any discrimination based on the 5 protected classes. Okay, and then does not apply to independent contractors or truly private membership clubs. So I'm going to explain it probably right now in a couple of minutes more in depth. Have you heard about one of the prestigious golf tournament, the Masters? So winner will be awarded the green jacket. So where does Augusta, the Masters, be held? The Augusta golf course in Georgia State. Excuse me. The club, extremely private, member based. So total member all of the world, probably less than 500. Was like a 300 before. Men only. No female. Doesn't matter how much money you have. So this golf course was filed several lawsuits because this is truly this is direct violation. How can you accept the female membership at your golf course for a long time throughout your history? That's not right. So female groups file a claim. This is a direct violation of Title VII. So the Augusta golf course never lost. They won. Because this is a truly private membership clubs. So we are targeting our client is 0.0001% very super rich people. So Title VII cannot be applied to this golf club. So same thing. I mean, a couple of weeks, probably 1 or 2 weeks ago, the Korean news actually announced that if you wanna post your job opening, then you cannot state any discriminatory remarks on the job statement. However, there's some exceptions, such as 수녀님들 should be females. Some special jobs will be priest, will be exempt. So they believe they applied in English bona fide occupational qualification. So I'm going to tell you later. So that is one of the exceptions. Female only fitness club. So we only targeting the female fans, female members. So we don't want to hire male coaches and athletic trainers. So if you believe your organization is very unique, so you can violate Title VII or you will be exempt. Make sense? In temple or church, we are required, every employee, everyone should believe Christian. So if it's the case, then you will be exempt. So they actually apply the same concept to Augusta golf course. So they were successful for a while. However, a couple years ago, they changed the rules. They started accepting female members. Accidentally, the CEO of sponsor should award the winner, winning the jacket, green jacket, to the winner of the tournament. And at the time, CEO of IBM was female. So they had they were confused. They didn't know what to deal with. They have to invite only the CEO should be accepted as a member. So that's the starting point. Okay, we have to reconsider our system, our rules and regulations, our policy. So because of her, then Augusta golf course started accepting the female. So, and then there's another honorary member to be accepted to this Augusta golf course. The former Secretary of Defense, what's your name? Rice? Yeah, Rice. It was Stanford University, right? She was just Stanford University, and then she was just Secretary of Defense, and then she actually came back as a professor at Stanford University. So she was added to honorary member to the Augusta golf course. So I want you to understand that Title VII protects both women and men from sex discrimination. So a lot of people believe that only only women be protected from Title VII. Same thing, sexual abuse. Okay, and I want you to understand that the man will be protected from Title VII, some of the criminal behaviors, like the sexually oriented or sexually related issues. And then when I watched some Korean comedy show, and then kind of shocked to me because one of the female comedian actually tried to sexually abusing one of the male comedians on TV, and he tried to touch the male comedian's butt, and then he kind of and escaping from her. But anyway, so I kind of amazed to see that happening on TV at the public channels. So this is one of the examples that the male can be protected by Title VII. So Metcalf versus University of Pennsylvania, a male was rejected for job coaching at collegiate women's rowing team. So University of Pennsylvania actually looking for hiring the rowing coaches of the women's team, and then there is a two strong candidate. One is a male and the other is a female candidate, and university on purpose hired the female coaches because they believe that female coaches should be the role model of the female rowing athlete. So if it's the case, the male candidate was rejected or discriminated based on his gender. So as long as you have evidence, then you may have a great chance to win this case. So there's some evidence. She indicated that excuse me, the university publicly and evidently preferred to hire a woman for the job in order to balance the mostly male coaching staff and to provide female rower. Okay, this is kind of large. Female role model for the athletes. So they believe that we want to hire this position of female coaches because we're looking for more female staffs, more male dominant department. So we believe that it's time to hire the female coaches, and also we need the female coaches to be the role model for female athletes. But in this case, kind of hard to file a claim and win over the university because hard to prove. What if the university said, "Oh, she's a great fit, better fit over the other candidate"? But obviously in this case, there must be some direct evidence saying the university preferred to hire the female coaches than male coaches. And then sexual orientation. A man who was not hired because he's gay cannot use Title VII to seek justice because sexual orientation is not listed as a protected class except, okay, blah blah blah. But interesting thing is sexual orientation has become one of the protected class. More than 20 states. You cannot be discriminated based on your sexual orientations. So White House, you have three types of restrooms: male, female, the third. So LGBT, right? Gays and lesbians and bisexual, transgender. So if you're not comfortable with using some special or specific traditional restroom, then you can use the third types of restroom. Yeah. Actually, if you say or the organizational fit or some other reasonable, I'm going to explain how to use it. But in this case, this is kind of summary of the case. But I believe University of Pennsylvania failed to hide some of internal conversation, saying that they preferred or they on purpose or they insist to hire the female coaches, or probably you can assume that the male coach probably contacted the university and asked why he was not selected. Probably university mistakenly mentioned to him, we wanted to hire the female coaches. If you can have evidence, then probably you can file a claim and win over the university. Okay, but I mean that's a direct violation, because there is no reason male coaches can be also role model for athlete, female athlete. So why only female coaches can be a role model for female athlete? That's the direct violation. So you have to, change your mentality. Okay, right? So female athlete can have male coaches as a role model, vice versa. So male athlete also can have female coaches as a role model. Interestingly, one of my former student, graduate student, she was just in the late 20s. She was assistant rowing coach at Gonzaga University, and she became the first female coach at men's rowing team and Division 1 program in the United States. So when I asked her what she wants to do in the future, and she said, I wanted to be a coach at men's team. So we didn't believe her it's going to happen. And finally, she became the first female coach at the men's team at Jacksonville University. So it was on the news, NCAA news. So I realized that, oh, she's one of the first one to be a female coach at men's team. Okay, so 20 states and also Washington D.C. have added sexual orientation as a protected class. Did you watch the movie Philadelphia? Was out in late 1950s, 1996 or 1997, and it was about the gay. One of the employee was gay, right? Or not gay, AIDS. So he was kicked out of the company. So he tried to file a claim, and then nobody wants to be a law attorney for him. So he has so struggled, stressed out in terms of his system. So he actually arguing against the legal system in the United States. So that's we're going to cover today. Kind of a disability. So Title VII remedies. So if you are discriminated, such as hiring, if you didn't get the position, or if you are not promoted, or if you lay off from the company because you are one of the 6 protected class, then you will get all the remedies. Back pay. What does back pay mean? Back pay. if you were not promoted because you are female or you are African American or some other region listed by 6 protected class, then you will get, the company should pay all the money or the salary difference. What about front pay? From now on, you will receive the increased pay scale. And what about reinstatement? Reinstatement. If you weren't hired, then the company will hire you. So that's a reinstatement. Or if you were not promoted, then okay, you deserve a promotion. So same thing as similar to retroactive seniority. If you miss the opportunity to be promoted because you are discriminated, then okay, gotta go, you are promoted. And injunctive relief, which means because of this, as a result of this verdict, this 판결, then company should stop any discriminations. So injunctive relief, do stop whatever discrimination you do as a result of this lawsuit verdict. And attorney fee, so you have to pay the attorney fee for plaintiff, attorney fees included. And compensatory and punitive damages. Usually punitive damages is 3 to 10 times of compensatory damages. If all the cost, that all the financial loss of this lawsuit about $100,000, then probably punitive damages will be usually $300,000 to $1 million.